So welcome to the last chapter. In this chapter we are going to finalize the scene, and then we'll talk a little bit about the pyro advention. So we'll be able to use pyro simulation to control the shaping and the dynamic movement about for the particle system. So the first thing we have to do is to finalize this setup. We have to take care about the amount of particles we have. We have to add stars all around this nebula, and we have also to finalize the rendering, because actually we have still something really simple about the rendering. It needs a little bit more love to create something more interesting. So if we go to our frame, and this was let's go to the cache, let's go to out update, and let's go for the frame 80. That's our frame. Back in the camera. So this one is nice, but we need more particles because it's not so heavy actually. So we have a lot of points. We need more information to create a gaseous look. So the first thing we have to do is to go there inside the nebula and have more particles. So let's go back to the first frame. We don't need to see the cache because we have to recache everything. So let's go to manual. And here we can do something really simple. We are using the multiplier to have more particles. So that's what we do. Actually, inside the source we have 0.0085 about the reference area to have an higher density. We go 8 times higher, so we go to 0.001. So we'll have a lot of particles in this way. And about the particles, that's all. We have to do nothing else. So you have essentially to recache everything. The nice thing is that I recached everything before, so we have not to write the particles back manually. So we can go to pick the file, and the file actually is essentially with another name because I decided to use a part dot and then the frame and then bgeo and then sc. But we don't need to take care about this thing, so we can essentially pick a file node. In this way we are going to open the particles. So we can, for example, set there a null point. With this one, actually maybe we can use this output there. So that's the out nebula, because that's the nebula we can render if we need. By the way, we are going to load there, so load still nebula, because we are going to pick just the frame 80, that's all. So inside our shot there, we can go to pick something. That's what we can do, and that's the simplest way. So we go inside geo and we have part. So you see, if we go to pick this one and say out update, now we have the particles. It is loading the particles. You have to think about it because it's really high density. To achieve a better look, you can go further to have more and more particles, but I decided to take care about also the timing for this simulation. So that's the particle I saved, and we can see that now we have there around 100 million particles. So that's not bad. You can do more, as I said you. So the other thing we can do is to load essentially the frame 80. So now it is going to load just the 80 frame. Will be a really simple way to have our nebula inside the screen. Now we can also remove the grid to have a nicer look there. So that's our particle. Let's go to have a back in the view, I mean, sorry, in the background we go to have the dark, so we have just dark color. So we have a lot of points, so let's go back there, and in the visualize let's go for pixel. Okay, so you see that's really nicer than before. So we have the particles. We need to create some more stars around, by the way we'll take care about now in a few. So to create the stars we need something. We need a new particle system, and we'll go to create the same as we done before. So we say let's pick this one, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and that's the nebula stars. Okay, the main difference is that we don't want to have a lot of particles. So if we go there, let's wait to stop because it is going to simulate the particles. We don't need it. Okay, we are inside, and there in the source we say the reference area is 1. So we have essentially the particles we like to have, and we are going to have less particles. So let's use the shift key with the control, and there we have the key for less particles. Let's say maybe 200 stars. So here you can decide the amount of stars you like to simulate, and that's all essentially. Then you have to pick a new file cache. Sorry, we was there. Okay, that's right, that's the number of stars. Okay, there we need a new file cache, and in this way we are going to cache the stars. So cache stars. We'll have obviously a different naming, and we need again the same 80 frames. So let's delete this one, let's say 80, and then we'll go to cache this one and say okay, please use the load from disk. So then I like to have the stars there, so we go to have a new geometry, and we are saying this one is the nebula stars. Let's say that this one is not visible, so back there inside the new cache we created, so we need a file, and this one is loading the star, and we get to pick maybe not the 80 frame. By the way, let's see, that's the cache. So you see it's cached, we have the particles moving, we can decide how much. So let's say that we like to pick the frame 60. Okay, so you see we have the stars all around. Then let's say load star nebula. We go to have an attribute randomize, so attribute randomize to randomize the scaling. Let's say random stars scaling. With this one we are going to take care about the scaling, so we use the P scale, and we go for a uniform continuous. We say to use just one dimension, and we go to copy this one, and we'll have it there, past relative and past relative and past relative, and then there copy, and then we have past relative, past relative, and past relative. Okay, that's done. We have just to remove this number. Nice, the scaling will be lower, but we will see something about it in a few. So let's go to have a copy 2 points. So copy 2 points. Okay, nice. And we go to have a sphere because the shape of each star will be a sphere. So connect this one and connect the scaling. Okay, you see, obviously everything is really huge, but we take care about the scaling from the random point there, and we say that the minimum scaling is essentially really low because I don't want to have big sides. So that's the minimum, and the maximum is 0.005. Okay, so we have some tiny stars and some bigger stars. Then let's go for an attribute wrangle. And we go to essentially to have just a color. So to do something like that, we say at CD, so let's work on the color attributes, equal 1, 1, 1. So that's white. And that's done. Okay, let's say set stars color. And if we like to have a little bit of chaos there, we can use a point getter. So let's connect there at chaos, set to on, and you see that it is working. So we can live with the default, or you can take care about some different situations. So this one obviously is inner the nebula. So you see that we have stars inside the nebula. We need a material for stars, so it will be really simple. We are talking about essentially a principal shader, so let's go for material path, and let's say that we are going there, and this one is the stars, and we need something really really simple. So about the surface, we go to use the base color with a maximum value. We can use the point color. You can say please use the base color. It's essentially the same. So color is set. We have just to double check about the reflection. We don't need reflection, and that's all. We can have something really simple. We have just to take care about the emission. So we have cephal illumination, so we go for white and a little bit more intensity, and we have no emission that goes to illuminate the stuff around. So we don't need anything more. So we can go back in the object, and there we say to pick the material stars, and then we go to save, and let's take care about the file naming. That's the 8 final. Okay, stars are done about the nebula, and I like to add another level of stars. So we go to have something that we create a star field all around. So a new geometry, let's call it star field. We'll do a really simple setup. We need to pick an environment. We go to create a box. We say star field box, a really big box. Okay, then we can have a bigger scale, let's say 500, or you can take care about the scaling with a transform field. A transform is not a problem. Let's go for a VDB from polygon. Let's say this one is to VDB, and in this way we have the area inside. It takes just a little bit to be prepared because it needs to create that box of sides. It's really let's stop, And let's try with 10 meters because you know the space is really big. And we go for a fog. So next step is to create a scatter. With the scatter we'll say how much stars we'll have. So scatter, let's say scatter stars. We have to take care about the amount of particles. We go for, let's move outside. You see that we have the points now, and we can go for 20,000. Okay, so we have a really higher amount of points. Nice. Back in the camera, and we can again use the same thing we done for the other stars. So there we can use the same thing. So Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and we go to have the random scaling. And random scaling will be a little bit different. So let's say 0, 0, 3, and we go for the maximum scaling. That will be 0, 0, 4. So just a little bit of variation. And about the scaling for the spheres, right, we have the copy, we have the color. This one can be also removed because we have no other colors around, and the chaos points can be removed because you know we have a random at the beginning, so we don't need it. About the material, we have the stars. If we go in the render view from the camera, we should have something really simple. We have stars inside and stars all around. Okay, you see that we have stars all around and more stars inside the nebula. So we have the stars, we have the nebula stars, and we have to take care about a simple animation. To do a simple animation, essentially we can use, maybe we can change a little bit the camera parameter. So maybe we go for a 28 for the focal length. So we are far, a little bit far. This one will be lower, so we are sure that we go to see everything all around. Also about the clipping, so we see all stars, and then we use a null point to move the camera. And let's say cam anim. And to do something that is interesting, we do something just about the camera moving near the nebula. So maybe max amount of frames is 150, and we say that the first frame is essentially a little bit different. So and let's say that this one is down, and maybe something like that. So here we have a key, and then we go a little bit near. So let's try in this way. So you see we have the camera movement in this way. We have just to take care about the tangents. So let's select everything and we go for linear. Let's set the real-time playback, and that's our animation. There is something strange in the visualization, by the way. Okay, it works. It is just a problem with the visualization. Okay, last thing we have to take care about the nebula. So let's set you on. It takes just a little bit to be loaded. Okay, and we can try to see how it works in rendering, but we need to go fast. We can have a little bit more soft rendering. So the pixel filter size can be 4. And about the rendering, we go for physically based. Let's go lower there, and lower there, so we'll have a faster rendering. And then we go in the render view and let's see what happened. Okay, so that's the actual result. You know, everything is really heavy dots because the quality is really low. By the way, let's start working with the material. We have to take care about the density, we have to take care about a lot of things. So first of all, the shading. So back there in the nebula, and let's go to our material. Actually, we have a principal shader. We go to change something because I like to have a really basic shader. So we go for a classic shader. Let's go for shaders, classic shader. Sorry. Let's call it Nebula Final. So we have to go back there and we see to use the Nebula Final. Now it is taking care about the rendering. It seems everything in the same way because, you know, we done nothing so interesting for the moment. So inside the surface we have there the diffuse, and that's right. I like to have white there to have the color entirely used from the point color. Then about the reflection, we don't need reflection, so we can remove it. We have no reflect coat, we have no refraction, so we have just to take care about emission if we like to have it, and the opacity. With opacity we can have a really nice rendering techniques because it will simulate something that is similar to the Krakatoa rendering engine. You know, it was a plugin for 3ds Max and Maya. So let's go for example for 0.01. So that's really low. You see that if we go to see the alpha channel also, you see that's the alpha channel actually. So let's try with 0.5. It will be more visible than before. Let's go back to RGB. That's the actual look. We have to change something about the emission. So let's go in the emission. Let's say that it's enabled. We are not going to illuminate the other objects. And we have to decide the color. So for example, if we say orange, everything will be colored by orange. So we go for something really dark. So let's say, for example, let's go to black. Obviously in this way we have no intensity, but we can play with the colors there to have, for example, 0.005, 0.005 and 0.002. So just a little bit of orange color, but you know, really low. If you go there and you set to 10, obviously you see that we have a little bit more lighting in the dark area there, but we don't need it, so we can go low. Let's go for 0.15, so it will be just a little bit of coloring. Let's go to the particles because we have to take care also about the particle scaling. And we go to change from sphere to circles. With circles we are taking care about bidimensional stuff. So each grain, let's say each pixel is no 3D, but it's just a point. And then we say, we say that we like to have a bigger scale. Now it is going to have a really low scaling. We go for 0.015, so it will be a little bit bigger than before. So now you have to take care just about, you know, the render quality. So inside the output, you know, we have a lot of points. By the way, you have to take care about the rendering, taking care about something more with an higher quality. So the idea is to go back to the max sample to 0.09, a lower noise level, and then we need to have an higher pixel sample. So let's try with 6 and 6. That's better than before. You see that we are going to have a more gaseous look, but we have maybe still a little bit of points. So to be sure that you have a really nice render, you can also rise up still a little bit. You can go step by step higher. By the way, for example, with 10 and 10 you have a really high quality render, and we can see with a bucket without the need to wait for the progressive rendering. So that's the final result. You know, it's not so slow to render, and the quality is really nice. So I'd like to show you what we can have as final result. I just rendered the frames, and then I moved inside DaVinci to create a little bit of effects, and then inside Fusion to create the complete final look. So it's going to render. You see that's working. It's really nice there. We have a lot of detail. I just rendered just the back over one layer and the nebula over another layer, so we can take care about it in a different way. Okay, let's stop. So final result is something like that, and you see that's really nice. And we are talking just about particles. You know that we can have also volume, so you can use the pyro to add volume all around, but in this way that's really nice, and it was not so complex to be simulated. So I like to show you what I done to create this kind of look. So let's go to open, resolve. I know that this one is not a course about DaVinci, so I'd like just to show you what I've done. Essentially we have a timeline, and I just picked in the media, I moved in the HD, and I loaded the frames. So for example, if you go there, we go inside the folder, so I can go there, and you see that there we have some stuff. So in the if I remember, there we have something about the rendering. You see that we have the rendering. You have just to pick the frame and move it there. So we have the stars and we have the nebula. So in the edit, let's move to the next. You see that we have the stars, and then we have the nebula on the other timeline. And then I made just some simple effects inside the color grading with some effects. You see that there we have the stars. Inside the stars I created nothing. That's the first node, and inside the first node you can do some coloring if needed. It's not a problem. Then we have a little glow to have a glowish over the stars, but it's really not so much. We have an automatic dirt removal. That's not that it's able to remove the grain if you have grain or if you have some problem with the sampling. And then we have just a little bit of Gaussian blur. So that's something not so complex. Over the nebula, this is not active, that's not active, it's something I was trying to do. I have 2 layers of automatic dirt removal to have a better quality, and then I have just the light rays to create some diffusion about the lighting there. So it's really not so complex. And then I exported everything there inside the deliver. I exported all the frames, and then when we are inside the frames, in my project, that's really, we have some stuff because I played with the old nebula to create some detail there. By the way, that's the rendering, so let's go to the first frame. Okay, so that's our render. I use a time speed because I like to have more frames. So you see that's the speed we had at the beginning, and with the time speed set to 0.5, now it is moving slower than before. Okay, then I created a version with a glow over and with a depth focus to create this soft version, and I picked the first one and the second one, and everything is set inside a merge. Okay, so the result is this one. So you see that's without the merge and that's with the merge. We have more lighting. Then we have still a little bit of grain there, so I created a node, the remove noise, and then I used an ellipse mask to mask the area where I like to remove the grain. Then I have essentially sharpen to have back some details around, just a little bit. It's nothing so complex. You see it's really low, it's 0.25. And then everything is exported outside. I didn't change the color, I didn't make it everything you can imagine over it, but you can do whatever you like, because, you know, for example, there I had some tests, and here, for example, that's how I changed the color. So if you pick this color corrector, let's see also this one, you see that we can copy this one and say, okay, let's move there and Ctrl V. And then we go to connect there. If we go to see the final result, you see that we are changing the color just with this one. So that's with or without. So you can take care about the coloring, and I just worked on the blue channel. Okay, so you can take care about the look as you prefer, just with a color corrector without the need to create something so bad or something so complex. Okay. So that's all, guys. It's really simple. It is a simple approach, and you know, we have not so advanced knowledge about particles in Houdini, but we are able to create nebulas, for example, and we are able to create sands and sparks and other effects. So we have some really nice basic knowledge. Now, before we close this chapter and this workshop, I like to show you how to move PyroFX data to move the particles. So we are going to use the PyroFX as advention to move the particles. So let's go back to Houdini. Sorry, that's this one. Okay. So we have to go back to the objects. Okay. And inside the nebula emitter, so we go back to the roof to create something more complex. So first of all, we need less particles. So let's say that we go to manual, and about there, let's go to 1. So we have a really low amount of particles. So let's go back to see the particles. Okay, let's go back to auto update, and everything should work nicely. Okay, that's how it is working. Back there, and we say let's remove this one, and let's say that we have an explosion, for example. So let's go maybe for a PyroFX, and let's say that we have a fireball, and we have to pick an object. So before everything, let's say that we have a sphere. It is in the middle, you see. Inside, let's say that this one is a mesh, and that's a little bit more labeled. Okay, so that's our pyro emitter. We're going to use it just for this kind of stuff. So it's this one, press enter, and you see that now we have the explosion. And let's go to have a lower scaling, so we go for something really low to be fast to see the preview. If we go to set play, you see that's the explosion. Okay. So I like to change something. First of all, the center is 0 because I like to have the explosion in the middle. I like to have more space over the x-axis, so let's say maybe 10 for the moment. And about the energy, let's say that we have no buoyancy. So we have no energy to make rise up the smoke. Okay, it is working. You see, it's not rising. By the way, I like to make some changes. Let's go to see the velocity. Let's say that this one is higher, so the scaling is 5, so we should have that's not enough, so let's go back to 1. Let's go to have something different. We go to have an higher temperature, and other things we can do is that here you see we have the resize container, and there in the pyro we have the shaping, and let's see that's the disturbance. Let's see if we can do something more with a turbulence, because I like to make something really chaotic. So about the turbulence, let's go there. We go for an higher sides there, and we go for have more turbulence and an higher level. Back. Okay, you see that we have more chaos. So let's go back to have an higher resolution. Okay, so you see that's the shaping that is creating. Obviously, everything can be done as we prefer. So let's say that we have a merge. Okay, that's the resizer, and then we go for maybe we can do everything there inside the pyro solver. So about the turbulence, let's say that the switch size is bigger. I like to try to do everything just with this one. You see that we are creating a really strange shaping. Okay, that's strange enough. You know, that's a really basic setup. It's just to show you how it can work. Then back in the pyro, let's say that we like to see the velocity. And you see that's something similar to the stuff we had before, but that's dynamic, and that's based on the fluid dynamic system. So back there in the scaling, and let's say that maybe we have a higher resolution to something like that. And then we go back to see also the multi-field. Okay, it's nothing so complex, it's just something we can show, we can use. You know, we have to take care about a lot of stuff there, but it is nice to see how we can use something like that for our purpose. So let's say this one is saved. So you know the basic idea is that's the pyro sim, pyro import, and pyro export. So we don't need to see anything. Everything, you know, is inside the import pyro fields. So this one is going to import everything. Let's say that we go inside our particle system. Okay, this one, nice. And inside the particles we are going to pick something else. So the idea is to have an object merge. Okay, let's go to pick this one. And inside this object merge we go to pick inside the import, so pyro import pyro fields. Okay, let's get to pick this one. Let's say that we like to see just the velocity. It should works. Okay, let's go back. Let's go inside the emitter. We say now that the velocity is essentially done by this one. So now that's connected. Let's go back there, and we have the advent by volume. That's this one, and let's see what's going on. You see that it's working perfectly. So you see that we have the particles moving away in this way, so we can have something really strange, you know, in this way. So the nebula shape can be really more complex than before. The nice thing is that obviously you see that explosion is inside, so it's going to move the particles step by step, but it is working, and we have to take care about this area because there is an area where we have the collision, so we have no more lighting and no more speed, but that's not our main purpose actually. So let's go back there. If we go to render this one, so let's say that we have this one, maybe, okay, let's see, maybe something like that, you know, we can have a really explosive look. So let's go for render with a bigger area and let's see what's going on. So you see, obviously we need a lot of particles to do something like that. So the basic idea is to, let's stop back there, and again let's go in the source, and we need to have back more particles. So let's say maybe something like that. It will be really high, not as the previous one, because you know we had a lot of more particles. Actually it's not so high, so maybe let's try with 001, so maybe 10 million particles. Okay, so you know, now we have a lot of particles. Then something that needs to be done is to cache everything, but I like to cache in another way. So let's say Pyro Nebula, so we have a different naming. Maybe we can save some frames, so let's say save to disk. It is going to export some frames. Maybe we can take care about maybe 30 or 40 frames. Okay, let's stop the simulation. And we have some frames, so let's say lot from the HD. Okay, you see we have a lot of cows. We can have less, so it's heavy to be loaded because we have a lot of particles. By the way, let's wait just for a moment. That's not so nice. Let's go at frame 30. Maybe 40. Okay. Let's move the camera. So you see that's the cows we have actually. Okay, let's go back to our camera. If we go to render this time, we'll have a little bit more particles. Obviously, again, you need to have all the particles we created before, but you see the important thing is that we need a velocity. So we have the possibility to create a velocity with a PyroFX volume. We have just to load to merge the right attributes. In this case, we pick just the velocity. Or you can create the velocity on your own. So you have the possibility to create as we done before there. So we can call this one merge PyroFX vel. So we know that this one is the velocity we created before. And you see that it's moving in the right way. So you have a different shaping, but we have the same way. The look is done also by the lighting. So you have to move the lights to create some different kind of setup, because it's really similar to the previous one about talking about the color. But you see there, it's really nice because we have a lot of cows done by the PyroFX. So you can create a lot of things just playing. Look at this area, that's really nice. Okay, so guys, that's all. That's all. We created something really nice, and we saw how to create volume velocity by hand, or how to use the pyrofx to create something like that. So I think you have all the information to create a lot of different nebulas, and think about also creating the pyrofx volume to merge everything inside the compositing, so you can have the volume and the particles all together. So guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon for a new workshop on Gnomon.